Hi, my name's Matt and I'm the QuoteWerks MVP for 2017. In this video, we'll be having a look at the new section header line type, which is a new feature in QuoteWerks 5.3. Section headers enable users to create separate sections in the quote. These line types also include a built-in subtotal in the extended price column that automatically calculates all of the line items directly below until it reaches another section header. This enables you to subtotal items within a section and be able to use other line types such as headings, subtotals, running subtotals to further organize the document. This also enables you to essentially nest a group inside of another group. Section header lines are different than the existing heading lines. Heading lines are typically used for text, for grouping similar items, or a way to organize the document. Heading lines do not have the built-in subtotal capabilities. Section headers can be set up to look different in your client-facing layouts, and as we go through, you'll see some examples. Let's now have a look at how we'd use section headings in the real world. On screen, I have an example quote containing a number of electronic items. There are some services, some groups, some comment lines, and some recurring lines. What I want to do, instead of simply giving the client a list of products, is I want to be sectioning out these items to make it clear to the client what they're going to be getting within each section. Prior to QuoteWerks 5.3, I could have used heading lines, put in some text, and done that in several places throughout the document. However, what we notice is there is no pricing information associated with these heading lines. In those cases, I would perhaps needed to have manually added a subtotal underneath each section, and perhaps even gone one step further and modified the subtotal description. With QuoteWerks 5.3, we can potentially be removing or using these types of lines for different purposes. What I'm now going to do is insert a section header. We notice that we're color-coded and we've got a total within that section header line. The section header line will total all the items below until we find a new section header. You'll notice there that our extended price for the conference room in Florida adjusted and is now only including the items below. Let's add one more section header line. And again, our values have automatically adjusted. Towards the bottom of our quote, you'll notice that we've got two groups. These groups contain sub-items, and I might want to be controlling how much or how little of this information I want to give to the client. Again, I'll add a new section header, and I'll just call this group of items. And we can see now we have our group of items with the appropriate value for both of the groups as well as the individual detail. This gives us even more flexibility of how we control what information we provide to the client. Throughout the document, I've got a couple of warranty lines towards the center and the bottom of the quote. What I might be interested in doing is not simply showing the recurring monthly, but doing that by section header. To do that, I can choose to add a summary line, reference a section header field, let's say our group of items, and I want it to calculate the recurring revenue monthly for that section header only. And I can do that once more for the other section header that I know contains recurring items. Of course, if I were to change one of the value of the warranty lines, the appropriate summary line would adjust automatically. If I scroll towards the top of my document, if I make an appropriate modification, let's say to the labor just here, the section header will adjust also. Let's now have a look at the sort of flexibility this gives on a client-facing document. Let's zoom in and have a closer look at this document. So I have a cover page moving straight on to my line item section. And you can see how I've formatted these section header lines to be much more bold, but also contain the pricing for that section. This makes it really easy for the client to understand what they're going to be getting for each particular section. And you can also see that I've got those section header summary lines appearing towards the bottom as well. Let's now have another look at a way that we can display the same information but slightly differently. In this case, I'm going to choose one of my templates, but with an additional template. And if I now go ahead and preview, you can see that we have the same cover page, but when I go onto the second page, all I'm displaying is a really high-level overview of each particular section. This acts as a one-page overview to the quote, but then continues to go into the line items with each section. So if you are ever looking or requiring to give your client a very quick snapshot, that is now very straightforward using QuoteWerks section headers. To show a further example of the flexibility of this new feature, I've manually added 2 heading lines, highlighted in red, and a couple of subtotals. All of these are within the one section header. Doing this further allows me to split out items into various categories, but still within one section header. Let's have a look at how this might be displayed. So again, I'll go onto my second page, and here we can see everything is within the one section header line with the total value, but within that section header, I've got my 2 heading lines with a couple of items within each having their own subtotal. So we have our section header value actually being comprised of 2 subsections, each with their own subtotal. Let's now come on to have a look at how this information can be presented via QuoteValet. So here is a standard QuoteValet template. The top section will look very similar to your existing. The only changes come when we look at the line item detail. Here you can see how our section header lines are being formatted. They very clearly define to a client where one section starts and another one begins. You can also see how we've got our regular heading lines, and we also have our subtotals, which are being used to subdivide each section header. If I scroll down, we can see that we have our groups of items and we have our summary lines towards the bottom as well. This really shows the power of the PDF and QuoteValet templates in presenting quotes in as clear a way as possible to your clients. One way in which I define a good quote is one where a client has no questions. And I think that by using a combination of section header, heading and subtotal lines, certainly on the pricing, you can make it as clear to the client as possible. As you've seen in this video, section header lines enable users to create separate sections in the quote. They have inbuilt totals, allowing you to total out a group of similar items into a section, and gives even further flexibility in how you choose to present information to your clients. You could even use the QuoteWerks Layout Designer to present a summary of all the section header lines only before you choose to get into the line item detail itself. This will give the client an initial high-level overview of each section of the quote. As an example, I could create a section header called Hardware, and within that could have subsections, maybe for server, workstation, and laptop. Section headers are clearly color-coded inside QuoteWerks, which enables you quickly to identify the start and end of each section. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to get in touch with our support team. We are available via email, support@quoteworks.com, or via phone 407 248 1481. Thanks for watching.